I would just like to guide you to the setting of the first reading. It's King Nebuchadnezzar, a real person who actually lived, and he's from Babylon, just east of Jerusalem, and he has invaded the Holy Land. And he captures all the people. He captures the Israeli army. He captures all of Israel's fine craftsmen and all the great smiths of the land. Then he captures them and moves them to Babylon, but he disregards the poor. It says right here, none were left in the land except the poor. You know, Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the Holy Land, and he left the poor behind in a ruined land. I think that speaks of King Nebuchadnezzar's character. I've been to New York City 3 times in my life, and 2 of those times I visited the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I was there some years ago, and 20 years later I visited again. The second time that I visited this beautiful and great museum, I took a tour of the museum. It cost me a little bit, but I took a tour when the museum was closed of the museum with a group of about 10 other people. It was worth the money. I noticed that in the years between my visits there, some of the exhibits changed, but some of them were permanent. Some of them stayed, and I revisited those permanent ones, especially this one, the one that I'm about to tell you, because King Nebuchadnezzar in the Old Testament reading is actually in the museum in New York City, the Metropolitan Museum. This is what it's like. There is a huge room, as big as this church, full of artifacts from King Nebuchadnezzar's reign. There are depictions of him, carving huge, out of solid granite, and it depicts what he looked like. There are massive panels, 3 feet thick, of solid granite, including the entryway, the door into King Nebuchadnezzar's palace. And on the left side of the door, in monolithic columns, is a carved out of granite, a carved bull, huge. And on the other side of the door is a carved ox. It's massive. That's what flanks the doors into his palace. Those animals were carved that way to depict power. And interestingly, on all of these panels, there are writings, and they're in one of the world's most ancient alphabets. It's called cuneiform. People know how to read cuneiform today, and all of those writings were translated into English. And I remember those things, and I'd like to cite what some of those things read, especially on King Nebuchadnezzar's palace. This is what it reads. I built this. King Nebuchadnezzar. I pillaged this country. King Nebuchadnezzar. I made the laws of the land. King Nebuchadnezzar. I increased the population of the Babylonians. Nebuchadnezzar. I exiled the Jews. Nebuchadnezzar. Real leadership looks for talents in other people. And it calls those talents out, and it raises the people up so that those people can be seen as good, talented, and help the common good of the land. A real leader will do that. But a false leader has a tendency to focus only upon himself, and the only thing that he will speak of is his accomplishments. The other thing of a false leader is that he will degenerate people that he considers worthless, like he left the poor in the Holy Land. You know what's really interesting about the Babylonian Empire? The Babylonian Empire lasted for probably 1,000 years before Jesus was born. But it totally and utterly collapsed 23 years after King Nebuchadnezzar died. That says something. And what it says to us spiritually is, brothers and sisters, we need to exonerate the other person and raise up the goodness and the talent of the other for us to see and for all to see. It really is the message of Jesus Christ, who is the Christian God.